Welcome to Anonymous Automotive. This is another episode of Must Drive, where I review a vehicle after a few days of driving. Today, we're reviewing the Mini Countryman Electric. It's a C-segment premium SUV. In this segment, you also have the Volvo EX30, the Kia Niro, and the Audi Q4 e-tron. But more importantly, under the quirky Mini design, it's actually a BMW iX1 built on the same FAR architecture platform. Now this is actually the third generation Mini Countryman. We had the R60 from 2010 to 2017. We then had the F60 from 2017 to 2023. This is now the U25, and it's the first time it comes in internal combustion and full BEV options. And what we're looking at here is the Mini Countryman E Sport with the level 1 pack. Now it is a bit of a minefield with the specs and trim levels, so I'll just give you a quick overview of that. So the Mini Countryman E comes in 2 powertrain types, 4 trim levels, and then 4 tech levels. So for the powertrain, we have this Mini Countryman E, which is 2-wheel drive. We have the Mini Countryman SE All-4, 4-wheel drive, also electric, with a bit more power. And in the trim levels, we have the Classic, we have Monochrome, we have Exclusive, and then we have the Sport, which is this one. And then in the tech levels, you go kind of no tech level, or level 0 I call it, level 1, 2 and 3. So this is the level 1, and we'll go through that in a bit more detail as we get into the relevant sections. And what Mini have done is kept the powertrain types and the trim types quite segregated. So what that means is, if you're more into performance, you can go for the best performance edition with the lowest trim level and the lowest tech, or vice versa, you can go for the lowest performance with the highest trim and highest tech. If you go for the lowest performance, lowest trim, lowest tech, this starts at 29,950. However, if you're on the high spec with all of the bells and whistles, you're going to 51,000. So there's a huge disparity between the entry level and the top spec. But let's take a look at the exterior in a bit more detail. Now, starting with the front of the vehicle, as this is black, it's the only color where you can't get the bonnet stripes, but this car is really configurable, and every other color you can get bonnet stripes, which look quite cool and add to the retro Mini design. On this spec, we have the blacked out Mini badge, and it's quite cool front grille design, which hides all of the autonomous radars and sensors. And as it's the Sport, it comes with some John Cooper Works Sport emblems in certain areas, which we'll come on to as well. And lower down, we have parking sensors here and parking sensors on the rear. We have LED headlights at the front, which are configurable, so you can change the theme with a couple of options. So what I'll do is I'll put an overlay showing how that works. It's quite cool. And moving on to the side, if you look at the silhouette of this vehicle, it's a bit more boxy and modern than the outgoing version, a bit more in keeping with the times. It's quite a nice design. But let's look at the wheels in a bit more detail. This Sport trim level comes with 19-inch wheels as standard. They're black, 5-spoke, not very aerodynamic, but look great. There are 20-inch John Cooper Works wheels available as an optional extra. We have large auto folding wing mirrors. On this spec, we don't have 360 camera. On the level 3, you do. And this spec does come with comfort access, so you don't need to take the keys out of the pocket. And it has flush door handles. Now, a little bit about handles. There is a new regulation this year in China where they are banning those auto deployable handles. And normally Europe and US follow soon. So I think it might be soon the end of these pop-out handles, which I'm quite pleased with. And we have a little panel here with a stick-on emblem. Depending on the spec you choose, this emblem changes. It's a nice little design. And where you'd find the fuel filler, we have the AC and DC charging points. And looking at the back, we've got this spoiler at the top blended into the roof. We have a small rear window with a tiny rear wiper. And moving down, blacked out Mini emblem and blacked out signage. And the rear lights are also LED and again configurable, which I'll show an overlay. And at the bottom, we have boxed off tailpipe covers. This car shares most of the styling with the petrol version. So on the petrol version, you'd find this is missing and you'd have single or dual exhaust. So overall, a nice quirky exterior. Let's look at the interior in a bit more detail. So first thing is this steering wheel. It's the John Cooper Works version, and it's got this little fabric band here, which I really like. Small, quite thick. It's a nice style. We've got this really coarse fabric on the dash and the doors. I'll come on to that a little bit later. And then we've got a circular OLED screen over here. This spec also has a heads-up display. And we have some toggle switches here for engine or motor on or off. We have the drive, neutral, reverse selector toggle, and then this switch over here, you can switch between different experiences. So a few switches, but most of the functions are on the touchscreen. We've got a plastic dash with a kind of design which looks okay. Again, this coarse fabric here. We've got metal looking vents which are actually plastic, but quite easy to maneuver. And then we do have kind of scratchy plastics, but it's going knee length down on the bottom of the dash and on the footwells. And this spec comes with sports seats. There's two colours available, one with a bit of red. It's a kind of leather look finish, it's leatherette. These are heated, but they're really comfortable. A lot of bolstering on the sides and a nice headrest. And this Countryman, like other Minis, has ISOFIX points on the front passenger seat. So if you want your child up front, it's possible. And these front seats are all manual adjustment on most of the specs. So you've got manual movement forward and back, got manual recline and incline. If you go for the level 3 option, you get automatic movement and memory features as well. So in the back, we've got 3 seats. Sitting here, I've moved these seats back to my normal driving position. I'm 5'10", and I've got a good amount of leg room. There's a good height under these seats, so I can push my feet underneath. So I'm fairly comfortable over here. The small compromise is the middle seat is a little bit smaller, but it's quite standard for this segment. I've got a reasonable amount of headroom, and I've got a good amount of width. The rear of these front seats have a cool design and look quite sporty, which I quite like. Moving down, we have a storage compartment here, which is fully covered, not a net, which I prefer. And then moving to the middle, we've got 2 USB-C charging points, which HVAC controls to modify the fan speed. And in the middle, we have a deployable armrest with a couple of cup holders. And if you pull on this lever here, this moves all the way forward, so you can store longer items without having to fold all the seats down. On all the doors, we have quite a unique large handle. I quite like it. We have automatic front and rear windows, and on the rear we also have some good storage, large bottle holder here and another compartment here. It's not felt lined, so it does rattle around a little bit, but it's a good size space. So looking at the tech in this vehicle, the main focal point is this circular OLED high definition screen. It's really responsive and quite user friendly. And I found no real bugbears in the last couple of days. Most of the menu navigation is done around these footer keys over here, which work quite well. And my main annoyance is again the heating control. We have some somewhat shortcuts here where I can click, change the temperature, activate the heated steering wheel or the heated seats, and I can do the same for the passenger. But if I want to go into a bit more functions, I need to click on this fan, and then I've got a lot more modification. Again, I really prefer hard keys, and if you're interested, China has again introduced a regulation later this year to make hard keys mandatory for certain functions, and I think Europe and US will follow as well. And on the radio screen, we have station logos which look good. On the home screen, we can kind of see entry into lots of other menus, but if you go into navigation, it gives you the full view and you can change to a satellite view if you prefer. However, what most users defer to is either Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which this vehicle has. If you click here, now my issue here is it's a circular screen, but CarPlay only takes this square or rectangular area. So when you go into something like Maps, it only uses a small area of the large screen, which doesn't look so premium, whereas this looks a lot more embedded. On this toggle here, we can switch between different experiences or modes. So if I flick up, the normal one is Core. I can go up to Go-Kart Mode, which has a weird sound, but then it changes the driving dynamics. It's a bit more responsive, a bit more fun to drive, you feel a bit more connected. And likewise, you can go the other way to Green. This is the most efficient mode. However, there is actually a lot more on here, and I don't know what a lot of them do, but there's Personal, Vivid,
Yeah, but the noise I would make is the sneaky Canadian
and this one transports you back into the 60s. It's a fairly simple steering wheel setup. We've got a stalk on the left for lighting control, we've got a stalk on the right for wipers, and then on the steering wheel itself we've got some ADAS functionality here for cruise control, and on the right we've got simple audio controls and a personalized button. We do have this clever boost button here, which I'll show when we're driving, which gives you 10 seconds of enhanced performance to do a maneuver or an overtake. And in this car we have a heads-up display. You get two types of heads-up displays in the industry. You have a windscreen projected heads-up display and this combiner HUD. This one's a little bit more easier to implement and cost-effective, but it gives you a much larger image. And moving on to storage, we have a wireless phone charger here with a nice lip to stop it from falling out. Moving down, we have large cup holders here. Now there isn't any constraints on these, so if you put a smaller bottle it does rattle and potentially fall over, whereas at the back it has got some constraints. We've got a storage compartment here, we have a storage compartment here, we have a small storage box here which is useful. You have a sliding armrest here. Now when this is at the frontmost position, it does kind of come in the way of this a little bit, but it's not a deal breaker. And then further down we have a 12-volt cigar socket and two USB-C charging points. And on this side we have a pretty good size glove box. So we've looked at the exterior, the interior, the tech and the storage. Let's jump in and see what it's like to drive. Okay, and we're off. So, driving review of the Mini Countryman, the Mini Countryman E. So as I mentioned, we have two powertrain options available in the electric. There's the E, which is this 66 kilowatt hour battery. It's just over 200 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 8.6 seconds, and it's front wheel drive. And then you have the SE All-4, which is four wheel drive, just over 300 horsepower, and a 0 to 60 comes down quite substantially to 5.6 seconds. It has the same size battery, but because it's heavier with dual motors, the range drops down a little bit. So we've got over 300 miles maximum range in this E, and it goes to like 270, 280 in the SE All-4. So we've got this toggle here, which you can switch between reverse and drive. But when you're in drive, there's two modes. There's D, which is standard, and if you press down again, you get B. And the difference here is that you can do full one pedal drive with B. So it has the maximum regenerative braking and a pure one pedal drive. And actually it's very similar to the drive in the previous electric Mini. Whereas when you put it into D, you can switch the level of regen on the display. However, even at the maximum setting, it's not full one pedal drive. You still have to brake when you're coming towards a stop. And the first thing you'll notice in this car, if you haven't modified the settings, is the fake noise. Now, some cars try to give an engine sound noise. This has got some kind of weird spaceship noise going on. I don't dislike it, but it's not very, let's say, genuine. But it's a personal preference. There is an easy access to the menu where you can turn it off. I think if you have it on, you get used to it. It's quite normal, but it is quite a distinct sound. When I've got a bit more of a open road, I'll accelerate and you'll be able to hear it in more clearer detail. So we're entering a faster road now, and let's hear that noise. So it does sound quite Starship Enterprise, and I think it's one of those personal preferences whether you keep it on or not. Over the last couple of days, I tend to have kept it on, just because it's something different and interesting. Had I had the car longer term, I'm not so sure I'd keep it in that mode. Now, as I mentioned, this is a Mini, but it's much larger than the Cooper and the original, so it weighs quite a bit. So it is 200 horsepower, however, on quite a weighty car, the acceleration isn't rapid. If you wanted much more acceleration, you need to go for the SE All-4 with the dual motor, but it's not bad. I think overall the drive is pretty smooth. think when you go to the John Cooper Works version on the petrol, you do get much harsher suspension, but on this one the suspension is quite smooth. It eats up most of the bumps, and the steering is really direct and quite light. So as you turn the wheel, there's a definite correlation with where you are pointing. We come onto a country road here where I can demonstrate that a little bit better. So this is a really bumpy road. However, the steering is very direct and really light, even in all the different modes that I've tried. Now, if you're a fan of minis, one of the key distinctive features is always how it rides and handles, and the ethos is, it feels like a go-kart. This is a much larger car, so what they've done is they've tweaked the tuning, the suspension to give you a go-kart mode. So if you flick down on here, you get a stupid sound, but then the fake noise improves. You do get quite a bit of oversteer when you're in that mode, so when you're accelerating and turning at the same time, there is a bit of a contradiction going on in the front wheels. It's not dangerous, it's just not super reliable. But I found that's a distinct feature in the Mini. Over every generation I've driven, it has a lot of power in the front wheels, and because of that it has a tendency to oversteer and feel quite heavy at the front. And when you're in the go-kart mode, you have power meters and G meters and all sorts of funky things on the display. So I did mention earlier that we have a boost function here, and it's this toggle, this paddle on the left hand side of the steering wheel, which gives you increased performance for 10 seconds. So I am already in go-kart mode, and if I accelerate slightly and then press boost, you do get a much quicker response. It starts a 10-second countdown on the heads-up display, so you know when you need to finish your maneuver by. I think it's a cool feature. Now, in terms of visibility, I feel the dash on this car is very low, which gives you a huge amount of visibility. Like, I can see a huge amount of the bonnet, which is not very common. This A-pillar is quite large, but the windows are quite big, so you can see around that quite easily. The rear window isn't the largest, but it's not a deal breaker. And there is also a little third section of the rear quarter glass, which when you're trying to do a 3-point turn or look over your shoulder at the blind spot, you can get a bit more visibility. So overall the visibility is really good, and when you're in tight country roads or tight car parks, I find it quite easy to park. I think the heads-up display, or the combiner heads-up display on this car, is really nice. A lot of people prefer the windscreen projected one, and I think that's fine, but from an engineer's perspective, it's one of the most difficult hardware components to integrate in the vehicle. You have to look at the correlation between the windscreen angle, the amount of packaging space it's required, the driver's seat height to see the projection in the windscreen, and the combiner hood. It takes away all of those issues. It just has a little screen that pops up and it gives you all the function. It's actually a much larger area, and I can see, speed, I can see battery power, I can see the road sign or the traffic signs all in the heads-up display, and it's a really nice display. I think all the generations of Mini have gone for this, and I see no reason for them to go to the more complicated windscreen projected version. The hood is available in the level 1, 2 and 3, so it's not available in, let's say, level 0, but it is one of the reasons why I would take the level 1. just for the hood and some of the other bits and pieces. You get the heated seat, the heated steering wheel. I mentioned when we looked at the interior, it's got this fabric on the door and the dash, and it is quite coarse. And when I mean quite coarse, when I picked up this car a couple of days ago, I kind of rubbed my hand on it and realised it leaves a bit of skin on the surface. And this car's done less than 200 miles, it's just a few weeks old. And I can imagine over time this can graze a lot of knuckles, and it's probably not the most hygienic feature if it's a pool car and a lot of different people are driving it. It is quite an abrasive texture. I think it's fine on the dash because you don't often touch it, but you're kind of always interfering with the door on this panel. So I would go for something smoother. I don't know if they have another option on any of their trim levels that avoid this. It looks okay, but it's not great. Now this Mini has 130 kilowatts DC charging. Now in 2026, it's probably substandard of where it needs to be. You get a lot of these new cars with 350 kilowatts or 250 kilowatt charging. When the standard came out, 50 kilowatts was a maximum, but quite quickly most OEMs have rapidly improved. And I find if you're comparing it like for like versus something else, it may be a little bit inadequate. It still charges from 20% to 80% in rapid time. However, it's not best in class, and it's a little bit below the competitors. Now with the 19-inch wheels on this car, it's probably worse than the 20-inch. There is, I wouldn't say a significant amount of road noise, but a mediocre amount of road noise, and there is a fair amount of wind noise. It's quite a boxy car compared to some of the previous versions, and with that comes territory of not very aerodynamic planes, so you do get wind noise when you're driving above 50 or 60 miles an hour. So this car doesn't have too much in the way of autonomous driving features, but it does have a lot of safety and warnings. So you can go to this menu and change the sensitivity on a lot of these warnings. So there's front collision alert, lane departure warning, lane change warning, exit warning, attentiveness assistant, speed warning, and speed limit exceeded. And within each of these you can change it from expanded, reduced, or off, or high or low, depending on your preferences. I tend to keep things in the medium setting to start, and if I find something is too aggressive or not aggressive, I modify it. But there is a good amount of warnings, and I find at the normal setting nothing is super annoying, so you can modify that to your own needs and according to your suitability. So one cool feature this car has is auto parking. It's been out for a while, but it's something I never really get bored of. So if I press this and look for space, press on start reverse park, should park without hitting the curb, but I don't have too much confidence. And there we go, and that's actually perfect, about 1 inch away from the curb. And I can also use that to leave the car parking space if I wanted to, but I will just leave by human intervention. And another cool feature is reversing assistance. So if you've driven down a narrow track and found out that you can't get out of there or can't three-point turn, you can press start reversing assistant, put it into reverse, and then it will mirror your steering wheel inputs to go back exactly the direction that you came from, which is cool, especially if you're not the most confident person driving in reverse. there you go, it's taking me back to that. Okay, all good and well. So to assess the practicality of this vehicle, let's take a look at the boot in a bit more detail. First thing you'll notice, we have automatic tailgate opening, and this is standard on all trim levels, which is a really good feature. Inside the boot, we have hooks on either side to hang things. We have straps, we have Isofix tethers, and then down here we have this floor which you can lift and hide cables, and there's a bit more storage down there as well. So what we'll do now is see if we can fit 2 large size suitcases, and then I'll take it a step further. I'll remove the shelf and see if I can get in 2 sets of family size suitcases. So you've got 2 large, 2 medium, 2 small. I assume they won't all fit, but I'll see how far we can go. So as you can see, 2 large suitcases fit in, and that's actually really practical. The car is still called a Mini, but that's a large amount of space. I had the previous version, smaller Mini, a couple of years ago, and you could barely get 1 size suitcase in sideways. So this is a good space, and also you still got a small amount of space on top for other bags without having to take out this shelf. But now I'll take out the shelf and see if I can fit in the full sets of 3 by standing them up potentially. Right, let's see how many of the family size suitcases I can get in and if the boot can still close. I've took out the parcel shelf, so let's crack on. Right, the first thing to note is this case doesn't stand up, so that's going to severely impede our plans, but let's put it flat and continue from there. So what we're finding is when the tailgate goes down, it's catching on the top here and stopping it from closing. Okay, so we've got 5 out of the 6 cases put in, and I think for this size car, bearing in mind it's not a Mini of old, it's actually still really impressive. It's similar to some of the quite larger cars that we've done. I've got 1 case left, but as I mentioned before, that can quite easily go in the footwell, so you'd be able to get all of these in without the parcel shelf. So the original Mini and the Mini Cooper now is a 4-seater. This is a fully fledged 5-seater, so I think it's only fair to do the full test where I install Isofix child seats on the outer rears and then try and sit in the middle to see how much space I've got, as it's a fairly common use case for kids and teenagers. So one thing I noticed is that these doors don't open massively wide, so it made it a little bit difficult to get the larger seat in, but I've got them in. I'll try and climb in the middle and see if I've got any space at all. Okay, so I've had a look and I've used my better judgment not to try and squeeze in that gap. It's not a practical seat for anybody over, teenage size. If you're a really small child, you're going to be on a car seat, so you're not going to fit there, and if you're anyone larger, it's just not a practical size. So if you are having kids that have Isofix seats in this car, it really only becomes a 4-seater. The Mini Countryman Electric comes in 2 powertrain options. We have the E, which is 204 horsepower, maximum speed of 106 miles per hour, 0 to 62 in 8.6 seconds, 250 Newton meters of torque, and a range of between 294 to 310 miles. We have the SE All 4, which is 4-wheel drive. It's dual motor. It has a power of 313 horsepower, maximum speed of 112 miles per hour, 0 to 62 in 5.6 seconds, 494 Newton meters of torque, a range of between 275 to 288 miles, and both of these have a 65 kilowatt battery. On the classic trim level, you have Veskin cloth combination seats in black and blue, 17-inch profile aero sport grey wheels, the roof is in black, you have a sports steering wheel which is heated, you have a light headlining, and you have classic trim content. On the monochrome trim, you have double cloth textile which is black and multi-tone, the roof is in body colour, you have 18-inch asteroid spoke wheels in black, you have
sun protection glass, front heated seats, anthracite roof lining, you have the heads-up display, and you have the wireless phone charger. In the exclusive, you have Veskin dark petrol seats. It's available in British racing green. You have 18-inch asteroid spoke in vibrant silver wheels. Again, anthracite roof lining, John Cooper Works sport seats, and exclusive trim content. In the sport trim, you have Veskin cord combination seats, John Cooper Works black. It's available in chili red. It's standard with 19-inch John Cooper Works runway spoke alloy wheels in black. You have a John Cooper Works steering wheel, John Cooper Works sports brake, John Cooper Works sport seats, and sport trim content. The level 1 pack for £2,500 gives you adaptive LED headlights, comfort access, driving assistance plus preparation, folding wing mirrors with auto dimming, front heated seats, high beam assist, a luggage net, heads up display, a rear view mirror with auto dimming, and wireless phone charging. Level 2, which is £5,000, includes everything from level 1, as well as Harman Kardon surround audio system, a panoramic glass sunroof, and sun protection glass. Level 3 for £7,800 includes everything from level 2, as well as the ability for 22 kilowatt AC charging, active seats for the driver, electric memory seats, an interior camera, and augmented reality navigation. Prices start from £29,255, including the EV grant, going all the way up to £50,405 when you select the highest trim levels with the highest spec and options. On this sport trim, the chili red is the standard free colour. However, also available are Nanook white, melting silver, slate blue, legend grey, smoky green, blazing blue, British racing green, and midnight black.
So that completes our review of the Mini Countryman Electric. Now, I really like it. I think the styling is great. I personally wouldn't choose black, just so you can see some of the accents and styling with some of the other colours. They do a really nice racing green or the chili red, which would be my preferred options. And I think in terms of the spec, I think the level 1 is probably where you want to be. I think the 0 level or level 0 misses some key functions, and I think level 2 and level 3 have good features, but I think the value for money on those is not there for me. So I think the level 1 is where I want to be. And the E versus the SE All 4, I think the E gives you a reasonable amount of performance with optimized range, but if you want that performance, by all means go for the SE All 4. The difference in price isn't massive, so it's good value for money again if you want that. I think overall, if you're looking for a premium kind of C-Class SUV and you want a bit of quirkiness, this is definitely one you should look at. Now, if you like this content or this type of content, please subscribe to the YouTube channel or the Instagram, TikTok, or wherever else you find me. Thanks for watching. This is Anonymous Automotive.